Hello and welcome to your program Hyperlink. This is where we all get together and answer your questions on a variety of teenage topics that affect both you and your parents. Today's episode is answering questions from your parents, so if they are around, ask them to join you. Today, however, we will discuss together the issue of teen social life. But first, let's see what the youth and their parents think about this issue.
The church is open every day.
Yeah.
It's not because something's not going on, doesn't mean you can't do anything. The church is open for prayer, for activities that you can come up with, for people that need help, for the poor, the sick. I'm sure you know a lot of people that are sick, in distress, are going through a rough time. You can go sit with them, open your Bible, talk. Yeah, I'm not trying to be like all religious and stuff, but at the same time, you could be around church activities your whole week.
And also, to do church activities, you don't necessarily have to be at church. You can have a Bible study with your friends from church or even friends from school. Just invite them over to your house, read the Bible for a little bit, make a few quick prayers. You don't have to be actually in the church to participate in Christian and church activities.
You don't have to be at church to participate in a church activity. I mean, honestly, like if you're home bored and you want to do something, open the Bible, read the Bible. I mean, that is just one thing that's gonna bring you closer to God.
Thank you for your participations and your personal opinions. What is teen social life anyway? Let's define it by what it isn't first. It really isn't a way for teens to go out and look for trouble, although it may seem that way at times. It is a way for teens to develop friendships, reduce stress, and work on their identity and self-esteem. A social life is an important part of a teen's schedule and a much needed one. So, how are you about letting your teen enjoy his or her social life? Let's go and answer your first question.
Sometimes I don't understand what's happening in my teen's head, and I don't know how they are thinking. They tell me you are old-fashioned and out of date, and there's a generation gap between us. I really want to understand how they are thinking, so we can be on the same thinking level and unit.
Your baby is now a teenager, going through all of the teenage rites of passage. Between school, friends, God, and a social life, their lives seem to be a foreign country to you. The little boy or girl that once told you everything now has to be hounded to give you even a snippet of thought. Yet there are three things you should know about what is going on in your Christian teen's head that will make your relationship a little better. Your teen can now make decisions. Many parents have a hard time letting their children grow up. Parents still think they need to make all the decisions, and they worry incessantly that their children will make mistakes. However, mistakes are a part of everyone's lives. We have all made them from time to time. It's important for you to know that your teenager doesn't want to make mistakes, but he or she does want to make decisions. It's important that you tell your teen what you think, but also to know where to set limits. If it is not a life-alerting decision, then you may just say that you think something will be a mistake and why. If it is life-alerting, then maybe you do need to take the wheel. Just make sure your teen understands the reasoning behind your decisions. As a teenager, he or she is old enough to understand the complexity of decisions, and because I said so is no longer an acceptable answer. It is important that you discuss certain things with your teenager, yet it is also important to give him or her some control over choices. Your teen will thank you. Your teenager wants privacy. Privacy is a huge deal to teens. If there is one thing that teens say annoys them about their parents, it is their invasion of privacy. Your teenager has his or her own relationships, lifestyle, and thoughts. Sometimes they prefer to be alone with those thoughts. Sometimes they prefer to be alone with those friends. Sometimes they like to be on their own at church. There is a point when you need to let your teenager have his or her own life. Your teen just doesn't want to go anywhere with you anymore. It is a harsh reality for many parents, yet it is okay to ask about where your teen is going and who is going with him or her. That is setting limits and boundaries. Privacy is also difficult today with the dangers of the internet. Banning the internet from your home is not necessarily the best solution. Instead, your teen needs to surrender passwords and usernames so you can supervise. While your teen may desire privacy, it is important that he or she understand dangers and safety precautions in such a social setting. If your teen desires private talks with friends or to maintain a journal, suggest something that predators cannot access easily, like the phone or a written journal. Put in mind, your teenager doesn't hate you. Okay, your teen sulks and sometimes acts like he or she doesn't care about you or your feelings. Unfortunately, that is the way that teens exert independence. Despite the commandment to honor your father and your mother, many teens seem to do no such thing. Does that mean your child hates you? Not at all. Your teen is stuck in a limbo between childhood and adulthood. So you're not always going to know which mode he or she is in at any time. It causes friction and problems, but it does not stop your teen from loving you. Your teen will talk a lot about respect, which is earned, not offered. It is important as a parent to set limits, but it is also important to offer freedoms as your child grows. Your teen probably wishes you could understand his or her needs better, and having some insight into what's going on in teenagers' heads is important. Yet, it does not mean that you stop being a parent, so let your child know a little about what's going on in your head too. Let's move on to our next question.
I have a lot of spare time on my hands, and especially during the long school vacations. I do attend church and youth meetings, but then I'm free the rest of the week. Are there any Christian activities that I can join that will develop me more and that will make a difference in my life?
Christians are called to reach out to the world they live in. Volunteering some of your time to outreach activities can be very rewarding, both for you and the people you help. Sometimes actions speak louder than words when you are trying to witness to people. Participating in outreach activities can help show the world around you Christ's love. Here are some outreach activities you can get started in your youth group. For instance, nursing home ministry. People in nursing homes tend to be lonely and disconnected from the world. You can contact various nursing homes in your area to see what types of activities you can do with the residents there. You can get your group together to read stories, write letters, just talk, put on skits, sing to them, talk about Jesus, and much more. Also, there is homeless ministry. There are so many homeless people roaming the streets. Whether you live in a small rural town or a big city, there are always things your youth group can do to help out the homeless. You can contact a local homeless shelter to see what you can do to participate. You can distribute things like food, hot drinks, clothing, blankets, etc. What about teaching? You don't have to be a genius to help out young kids with their homework. Some kids just don't get the attention or help they need. You can contact social services in your area to see what they are doing in certain neighborhoods for your kids. Work with the neighborhood centers to set up tutoring in low-income neighborhoods. Craft donation. Are there some students in your youth group that like to sew, knit, paint, etc.? There are programs that knit hats and scarves for the needy, sick, or even military troops overseas. There are also organizations that need blankets and clothing. See if your fellow craft-minded teens would like to get involved. Christmas tree deliveries. Sometimes families cannot afford a tree or they cannot transport trees on their own. Your youth group can get together to deliver Christmas trees to local families. Food delivery. See if you can get families in your church to donate food or money to buy meats, for example, and then offer to deliver them to needy families. Just be sure, if you are delivering items to dangerous areas, that you go with a leader or even ask the police support. You always want to be safe. Missions meals. Missions are an integral part of spreading Christianity around the world. While you may hear a lot about missions giving in main services, it does not mean your youth group cannot do something to help missionaries. You can set up a buffet night where your group cooks foods from different countries to support missionaries from those countries. Then you can sell tickets for people to come eat the food from that country and then donate the money to those missionaries. Paint the town clean. Volunteer to cover graffiti, paint the playground, murals at schools, etc. If you see an area that needs some work, you can contact an official there to see if there is something you can do about it. Contact your police or public works department to see about cleaning up playgrounds, painting over graffiti, etc. Talk to your elementary schools to check into painting a mural. Make your town more colorful and clean. People will notice your efforts. How about reading program? Little kids love when people read to them. Preschoolers will crawl in your lap and just eat it up. It also helps to promote literacy. Check with local preschools, neighborhood centers and libraries to see if there is a time your youth group can come in to read to the children. Your group can read both Christian and non-Christian books and act out skits to entertain the kids. Service Day. You can set up a service outreach group at your church for Service Day. On those days, you can help a specific population like seniors, veterans, single mums, etc. You can cook, clean, do the shopping, and so forth for those people who need it. Have people sign up for services or contact members of the church to help out. While all of these ideas are excellent outreach opportunities, there are plenty more out there. So, you see, there are a lot of activities which you can do that will occupy your free time and that will build a treasure for you in heaven. Let's move on to our next question.
I enjoy youth meetings and go around to different youth groups to attend their meetings. So, how do I know which youth group is the right one for me and the one that I should attend regularly?
If you are one of those lucky Christian teens that gets to choose where they go to church, you may feel a bit overwhelmed about which youth group will work for you. There are all kinds of youth groups, ones that focus more on the fun, ones that are very serious and only focus on the Bible, ones that combine fun and biblical principles, etc. Yet, how do you know what type of church youth group will work for you? Here are 3 guiding principles to help you make your decisions. 1, it shares your beliefs. First and foremost, you want to belong to a church youth group that shares the same belief system as you. An Orthodox teen may feel uncomfortable in say a Baptist youth group, or a Catholic teen may not like an evangelical youth service. Investigate youth groups within your denomination so that you feel comfortable with what are being preached and how the word is being presented. So we as Orthodox have many youth meetings, usually conducted on the Friday nights in all churches. Go around these meetings and find out which one will satisfy you and help you grow spiritually in Christ Jesus. It is invested in you. What does it mean that a youth group is invested in you? As Christian teens, you still have a lot of spiritual growth in front of you, and your youth group should be focused on helping you grow both spiritually, emotionally, and developmentally. That may seem kind of wordy, but basically you want a youth group that offers you activities that do more than just allow you to play games. You should know your youth group has both the focus on God while also allowing you to be social and have a little fun. That's what being a teenager is about, growing in all kinds of ways. You should choose a youth group that meets you where you are in your own spiritual walk and offers you a chance to grow. This also means that you need to be sure you can connect with the leadership too. The adults that work with the Christian teens at your church will have an incredible impact on your life, but only if they are invested in helping you grow. If a youth group is not guided by invested adults, it may not be a good place to improve your relationship with God. Good youth leaders are key to successful youth group. Another point is, this youth meeting holds your interest. Now, all kinds of activities and studies can be good, but only if you are going to get something out of them. If you have a youth group that does a lot of sporting events, but you are more of an art lover, those activities aren't going to do much for your spiritual walk. If you're not much of a reader, but all the activities are based on books and reading, you're not going to enjoy the youth group all that much. Make sure that the services and activities are geared toward your own interest. This will make being a part of your church youth group more of a joy and far less of a chore. Let's move on to our story for the day. My life came crashing to a halt. I remember thinking that my life was about to be ruined when my parents delivered the big news. At that point, I thought God had made a terrible mistake. My whole life, we had lived in our native country. My entire life was there, my family and friends, my school and my church. I had always imagined us as the family that would never move. That is why, when my mum and dad told my little brother and I that we were leaving, my life came crushing to a halt. The fact that we were leaving our country too made it hurt that much more. I was really angry with God at that point. I have heard the sayings, you can't always get what you want, and life isn't always fair. But this was just ridiculous. I felt like God had deserted me. I asked him, why have you abandoned me? Too soon we were packed and ready to hit the agonizingly long journey ahead of us. I really was not looking forward to our new life. Throughout that summer, many thoughts ran through my head. I thought I would never forgive God for this event in my life. I thought I would never see my friends again, and I was sure I was in for the worst. Once school started, I began to loosen up. The teachers were great, my classmates were nice, and I was actually happy. After getting to know my current best friend, I started feeling guilty for feeling happy because of how mad I had been at God for moving my family. I realized then that God knew I would adapt to my new environment. I know that He has forgiven me for not trusting Him. It was all in His plan for my family and me. This time has become one of the best in my life. I have started high school now and I love it. What I also love is that my family has never been this close. I have learned that sometimes in life, God might change it up a bit. Instead of getting angry, I should have been patient because it all turned out wonderfully in the end. So this ends our episode for today on teen social life. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and we are looking forward to meeting you in our next episode. So meet us next week, and don't forget to tell your friends to join you. God bless you and stay safe.